Jack Carter had been scavenging the vast, empty desert for hours. The sun was a relentless force, beating down on him as he trudged through the sand. His boots, worn from countless expeditions, left deep prints behind him. Sweat dripped down his face, mixing with the dust from the dry air. But Jack didn't mind. He was used to the harsh conditions. As a mechanic and scavenger, he was always in search of useful scraps from long-forgotten wars, abandoned ships, or lost technologies. It was a solitary life, but it paid well enough to keep him moving. His old Jeep, an unreliable companion, was parked on a distant dune. Its engine hummed quietly in the background, a reminder that he wasn't too far from civilization. Jack didn't mind the isolation. Out here, it was easier to think, to be alone with his thoughts. As he continued across the sandy wasteland, something caught his eye. A glint of metal buried beneath the sand. It wasn't the usual scrap he was accustomed to, but something about it made him stop. He crouched low, brushing aside the sand, and uncovered a strange, rusted container. The metal was pocked and scratched, evidence that it had been here for a long time. But there were no markings, nothing to indicate where it came from or what it was used for. Jack's curiosity flared. He'd come across odd finds before, but this one felt different. The shape of the container was unfamiliar, too sleek and too smooth for something of this age. A metal handle jutted from the side, and it was clearly meant to be opened. He reached for it, his fingers trembling slightly as he gripped the handle. He wasn't sure why, but there was an unease in his gut, a feeling that something about this discovery was important. Too important. He glanced around, as if expecting someone to jump out from behind the dunes, but the desert remained as quiet as ever. With a firm tug, Jack pulled the latch free. The moment the container opened, a strange hum filled the air, a low, mechanical sound that vibrated through the ground beneath him. He froze, staring at the crack in the container, his heart beating faster. Then, a voice. It wasn't loud. It wasn't even clear, but it was there, faint, desperate, and pleading. "Please, don't open." The words sent a chill down Jack's spine. He pulled his hand back as if he had been burned, his instincts telling him to shut it, to leave it alone. But his curiosity was overpowering. There was something in that voice, something that made him want to know more. He took a deep breath and carefully opened the container just a little further. The sound of the voice grew clearer, more distinct, and for a moment, Jack thought he might have imagined it. But the words were unmistakable, laced with an eerie sense of urgency. "Please, don't open me." The voice was pleading now, and Jack's hesitation deepened. His mind raced as he tried to make sense of what he was hearing. This was no ordinary find. It wasn't just an old crate or a forgotten military relic. Something about it, something about the voice, made him feel like he was on the edge of a discovery that would change everything. He had to know what was inside. With a nervous glance around the desert, Jack slowly pulled the container open wider. The inside glowed faintly with a strange blue light. It looked like nothing he had ever seen before. There was a control panel of sorts covered in alien symbols that seemed to shift and change as he stared at them. At first he couldn't make sense of them, but then, as if something was guiding his fingers, he reached out and gently touched one of the glowing buttons. The moment his skin made contact, the container shuddered. The voice stopped. It was replaced by a low, pulsing hum, the kind of sound Jack had heard from the machines on abandoned starships. He felt a mix of awe and fear. Something was awakening inside the container, something that had been buried here for a long time. He took another step back, a wave of uncertainty hitting him. This was no ordinary find. He had uncovered something that shouldn't have been disturbed. But it was too late to turn back now. The container had already opened. The voice had already spoken. The hum grew louder, and Jack's heart raced as he fought to steady his breathing. His hand hovered over the control panel, unsure of what to do next. Could he really let this strange, ancient container remain a mystery? Or would he dive deeper into whatever this was no matter the danger. Before he could make up his mind, the panel flickered, and a hologram appeared above it. It was faint at first, but then the image solidified. A face, a woman's face, stared back at him, her eyes wide with fear. She was humanoid, but her features were unlike any human Jack had ever seen. Her skin shimmered with an otherworldly glow, and her hair seemed to shift in color, as though it were made of liquid light. She spoke, though her lips didn't move. "Please?" The voice came again, the same desperate tone. "You must stop. They will come for you." Jack stepped back, his mind reeling. The voice had stopped, but the image remained, hovering before him, alive with urgency. Whoever, whatever this was, she wasn't human. She was something else, and somehow Jack had found her. Somehow he had opened the door to something far bigger than himself, but he couldn't stop now. He had to know more. The voice echoed in his mind once more. "Please don't open!" Jack swallowed hard. His next move could be the most important thing he'd ever do. But as he stared at the glowing image of the alien, one thing was clear. There was no turning back. Jack couldn't shake the feeling that he was in way over his head. The strange container still sat on his workbench, its faint blue glow casting eerie shadows across the room. He brought it back to his makeshift workshop, thinking that if he just studied it, he could make sense of it. But now, with the image of the alien woman still fresh in his mind, Jack wasn't so sure. What had he really uncovered? He wiped his hands on his worn-out shirt, staring at the control panel. His thoughts raced. The voice, the pleading words. It felt like the start of something much bigger than a simple scavenger's find. There was something about that voice, the fear in it, the urgency. He wasn't used to finding things that begged to be left alone, especially not things like this. The hologram of the alien woman flickered above the panel once again, her face a mix of fear and determination. She stared at Jack, and for a moment, he almost felt like she could see him, like she was trying to speak directly to him. The voice inside his head whispered again, faint but clear. "Please, you must stop." Jack's breath caught in his throat. He wanted to reach out, touch the hologram, but he couldn't. Something inside told him it wasn't just a machine, that this wasn't just a device he could understand with his usual technical know-how. This was something different, something alive. He stepped back, his boots scraping against the floor as he looked around the room. His workshop was full of tools and old parts from ships he had repaired over the years. He'd always felt at home here, surrounded by machines he could fix, things he could understand. But this
was beyond anything he had ever worked on. This wasn't a ship.
This wasn't a weapon. This was a mystery, and it was one that was drawing him in, whether he liked it or not. Jack's fingers hovered over the panel, unsure of what to do next. He had come this far, opened the container, and let the hologram appear. He couldn't just walk away from it now. But the voice kept echoing in his mind, warning him to stop.
Why?
He muttered under his breath.
What's so dangerous about opening it?
The room was silent, except for the soft hum of the container. He leaned in closer, staring at the alien symbols that flickered across the panel, moving as if they had a life of their own. They weren't like anything he had ever seen before. They didn't make sense in any language he knew, but somehow his fingers seemed to know where to press. It was as if the symbols were drawing him in, inviting him to figure them out. Jack's curiosity outweighed his caution. He pressed one of the glowing buttons, and the container shuddered. The hologram flickered, and the woman's face became clearer, more defined. She spoke again, her voice now clearer than before, though her lips never moved.
"You don't understand."
"They will come for you. They will never stop." Jack's mind raced as he tried to process the meaning of her words. Who was she talking about? Who would come for him? He had just opened a container buried in the sand. How could it already be putting him in danger? He leaned in, pressing another button. The panel responded, flashing brighter, and the woman's image changed. It was still her face, but now her expression was one of anger and pain. A new voice, much darker and deeper, echoed from the container, as if it was coming from inside her own mind. "Do not trust her." The words rang out in Jack's mind, sharp and clear. His hand recoiled from the panel, his heart racing. What was happening? This wasn't just an ordinary alien message. There was something far more complicated going on here, something that involved Jack, something that involved the woman in the hologram, and something dangerous. Something he didn't understand. The woman's image shifted again. This time it wasn't just her face that appeared, but the background behind her, a scene from another world. Jack gasped as he saw the image of an entire planet, vibrant and full of life. Alien structures stretched toward the sky, towering over cities that looked both ancient and advanced. But there was something wrong. The sky above the city was dark, the buildings crumbling, and shadows seemed to crawl across the landscape, like something alive. Her voice came again, but this time it was filled with sorrow. "We were once a powerful empire, our civilization spanning across galaxies. But we were betrayed, scattered to the winds by our enemies. They hunted us down, and now I am the last of my kind." The image flickered, and Jack saw the woman standing in front of an enormous throne, alone. The throne was empty, save for a single figure, a figure whose face was obscured by a hood. The figure was tall and menacing, cloaked in darkness. Jack felt a chill run down his spine. "Who is that?" he whispered. "An enemy," the woman's voice responded. "The one who destroyed us. The one who is still hunting me. And now they are after you." Jack's mind was spinning. What had he uncovered? Who was this woman? And why was she telling him all of this? It didn't make sense. He was just a mechanic. He wasn't supposed to be involved in some galactic war and some ancient betrayal. But the more he listened, the more he realized that whatever this was, it was now part of his life. He had opened the container. He had unleashed something far bigger than himself, and there was no turning back. The woman's image flickered once more, and this time, her expression was filled with desperation.
"You must help me," she pleaded.
"You must trust me. They are coming, and you cannot stop them alone. But together, we can survive. Together, we can fight back." Jack stepped back, his head pounding. This was too much. His life had just been turned upside down. He hadn't signed up for this, but the woman's eyes, those eyes, filled with a mix of fear and hope, told him something. She was asking for his help, and maybe, just maybe, he could do something to help her. But he had no idea how. The sound of a distant rumble shook the ground beneath him. Jack looked toward the door of his workshop, his heart racing. The rumble grew louder, and then he heard it, an unmistakable sound. It was the sound of engines, the sound of something approaching. He didn't have much time. The woman's voice came again, softer this time. "They are here. You must act quickly. Trust me, Jack. Trust me." Jack stood there for a moment, frozen, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. Could he really trust this alien? Could he risk everything to help her? He didn't know what to do, but one thing was certain: the danger was real. And if he didn't act soon, he might not live to regret it. Jack's mind raced as the distant rumble grew louder, the sound of engines echoing through the desert. The woman's voice continued in his head, her words urging him to act quickly, to trust her. But how could he? He barely knew her. All he had was a strange hologram, a desperate plea, and the sense that his life had just taken a turn into the unknown. The rumble from outside was unmistakable now, the sound of ships, big ships, approaching. Jack's pulse quickened as his eyes darted toward the door of his workshop. His hand hovered near the panel of the container, but he didn't know what else to do. The alien woman's face still hovered in the air, her image shifting and flickering like an old film. The urgency in her voice sent a shiver down his spine. "Jack! They are coming! You must move! Now, before they find us." He didn't understand. Who were these enemies? Why were they after her? And why was she asking him, a mechanic from a dusty desert world, to fight them? Jack wasn't a soldier. He was just a man trying to get by. But the warning in her voice, the fear in her eyes, made him feel like there was no other choice. The rumbling outside grew louder, and Jack felt the ground shake beneath him. His workshop, usually so still and quiet, was now alive with the sound of approaching danger. He glanced at the door again. His jeep was parked just outside, his only escape if things got too dangerous. But if the ships were as big as they sounded, the jeep wouldn't get him far. The woman's voice cut through his thoughts once more, this time stronger than before. Her words filled with a command Jack couldn't ignore. "Go to the desert. There is a ship." "My ship. You can't stay here. They will destroy everything."
A ship?
Her ship. Jack didn't even know where to start looking, but he didn't have time to argue. He wasn't sure how much time he had left. The rumbling was so loud now, it seemed to shake the very air. He grabbed his jacket, slinging it over his shoulder, and glanced around his workshop. Nothing here was worth staying for. Not if these enemies were as powerful as she said. Without another thought, Jack bolted for the door, his boots thudding on the floor. He couldn't waste any more time. He stepped into the blinding sunlight, his eyes squinting as he adjusted to the brightness. His jeep was still parked on the edge of the dune, just where he'd left it, but it seemed so small now, almost insignificant compared to what he was about to face. The woman's voice came again, guiding him, her tone filled with urgency. "Head north. Follow the old path. You'll find the ship hidden there." Jack didn't hesitate. He jumped into the jeep, starting the engine. The vehicle sputtered to life, the worn-out engine rattling as he floored the accelerator. The wheels kicked up a cloud of dust behind him as he sped off, racing across the endless desert. The wind whipped through his hair, the heat of the sun pressing down on him like a heavy blanket. But he kept his eyes on the horizon. As the jeep bounced over the uneven ground, Jack glanced nervously over his shoulder. He couldn't see anything. No ships, no signs of danger, but he could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. The rumble from earlier had faded, but Jack didn't feel safe. He wasn't sure he ever would again. The woman's image had disappeared, but her voice remained in his mind, guiding him, urging him forward. "Keep going. You're almost there." Jack didn't know how she could know where he was, but he didn't question it. He didn't have time to. The desert stretched on, a never-ending sea of sand, but Jack kept his focus on the path ahead. The world around him felt like it was closing in, like something was lurking just beyond the horizon, waiting for him to slip up. Minutes passed, and then hours, but Jack didn't stop. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles white. Sweat dripped down his face, stinging his eyes, but he kept going. He couldn't turn back now. The woman had warned him, and now he was committed to whatever this was. He was in too deep. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Jack spotted something in the distance. At first, it looked like a mirage, a shadow in the desert, but as he got closer, the shape began to take form. A large structure partially buried in the sand stood against the horizon. It was made of metal, sleek and shiny, but weathered by time. There was no mistaking it. It was a ship, and it was exactly where the woman had said it would be. He slammed the jeep to a stop, the wheels screeching as they dug into the sand. Jack jumped out, his boots sinking into the dry earth as he made his way toward the ship. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. The ship was massive, its smooth, metallic surface reflecting the sun. The structure was shaped like an ancient temple, its walls lined with strange glowing symbols, just like the ones on the container. As Jack approached, a door on the side of the ship slid open with a soft hiss. The inside was dim, but there was a faint light that seemed to pulse with life. The moment Jack stepped inside, he felt a strange sensation wash over him. It was as if the ship was alive, as if it recognized him. The woman's voice returned, more comforting this time. "Welcome, Jack. You have made the right choice." He swallowed hard, unsure of what to say. "What is this place?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "This is my ship. It was once a great vessel, capable of traveling the stars. But now it is a relic, just like me. You are the key to restoring it, Jack. The key to everything." Jack's heart skipped a beat. "Restoring it? I'm just a mechanic. I don't know anything about—"
"This, you know more than you think," the woman replied. Then Khan,
"You opened the container. You activated the ship. You're already involved. The only question now is how far you're willing to go." Jack hesitated. He didn't understand any of this. Dude, it was too much. But somehow, he felt like there was no other choice. He was already in this, whether he wanted to be or not. The woman, this alien, had chosen him, and if he was to survive, he had to trust her. He stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. The doors of the ship closed behind him with a soft thud, sealing him inside. The ship hummed softly around Jack, its walls alive with a strange energy. It felt like the very air was thick with purpose, as if the ship had been waiting for him all along. Jack wasn't sure what to think anymore. A few days ago, he was just a mechanic in a dusty desert, minding his own business, searching for scrap to sell. Now he was standing inside a massive alien vessel, with no idea what the future held, but knowing that everything had changed. The woman's voice, calm and reassuring, echoed in his mind again. "You're here now. This is where it all begins, Jack." He swallowed, trying to steady his nerves. He was trying to make sense of the situation, but nothing about this made sense. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't some great leader destined to save the galaxy. He was just a man who had stumbled into something far bigger than he could understand. Yet, here he was, standing at the heart of a ship that had once ruled the stars. Jack glanced around the ship's interior. The walls seemed to pulse with life, glowing softly, and intricate designs lined every surface. Some parts of the ship were familiar, like the control panels and consoles he'd seen on the wrecks he'd scavenged, but the technology here was far more advanced. The symbols, the way they shifted and glowed, were beyond anything he had ever encountered. The woman's image appeared before him again, this time more solid, more real. Her face was still the same, radiant, with features unlike any human. But her eyes, those eyes filled with fear and sadness, were now clearer than ever. She was standing in front of him, her presence filling the room, as if she had materialized from the very air around him. "Jack," she said, her voice soft yet filled with power. "This ship is my legacy. It is the key to saving my people and your world. You were chosen because you have the ability to repair it, to bring it back to life." Jack took a step back, shaking his head. "I don't know how to fix this. I'm not some space engineer. I don't even understand half of what's going on." "You do?"
"You've already started. You opened the container."
"You activated the ship. It recognized you, Jack." "It chose you? Chose me?" Jack repeated, his voice incredulous. "Why me?" She smiled softly, though her expression remained somber. because you have something the others do not: curiosity, a desire to understand.
You didn't run away when you heard my voice. You didn't close the container and forget about me.
You chose to listen, and now you must choose to act. The words sank in slowly. Jack didn't fully understand, but something about them rang true. It wasn't just luck that he had found this ship. It wasn't just a random encounter. He was here for a reason, whether he liked it or not. But that didn't mean he had to like it. It was a lot to take in. Too much, really. The ones you're running from? Jack asked, trying to make sense of the danger they were in. The woman's eyes darkened, and her voice became more strained. They are the ones who destroyed my people. The ones who tore apart our empire. They have hunted us for centuries. They are relentless. And now they are after you. Because you've found me. Jack's heart pounded in his chest. His first thought was to run, to leave this all behind, and never look back. But there was nowhere to run. The desert was vast, but these enemies would find him, no matter where he went. He didn't know what to do. He was just a mechanic. He had no training, no weapons. He wasn't ready for this. Yet, somehow, he felt that he had no choice but to keep moving forward. "What do you want me to do?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. He had to know. If he was going to die here, he needed to understand what was at stake. The woman's holographic image shifted, becoming more focused, as if the weight of her responsibility was bearing down on her. "I need you to help me restore this ship."
The ship is a weapon, Jack. It has the power to stop them, to end the war.
"But I cannot do it alone. I need you to help me activate its systems, to bring it back to its full strength."
Only then will we stand a chance.
Jack's mind raced.
This ship was a weapon? What kind of weapon could it be?
What kind of power did it have? But the woman's expression told him everything he needed to know. She wasn't lying. She wasn't trying to manipulate him. She was asking for his help, and she was desperate. He looked down at his hands.
They were shaking. He had no idea how to activate any of this.
He wasn't trained for anything like this. But somehow he felt the pressure of the moment, the weight of the decision, pressing on him, urging him to do something.
What do I need to do? Jack asked again, his voice firmer now. First, we must unlock the core systems.
The ship's main power source is hidden deep within the hull. It is protected by layers of security. I need your skills to bypass the systems. Only then will we be able to access the main controls and start the activation process. Jack nodded, though doubt still clung to his thoughts. Could he really do this? Could he actually help this alien woman and, by extension, the entire galaxy? He didn't know. But he had already made the decision to stay. Now, he had to see it through.
All right,
Jack said, his voice steadying.
Where do we start?
The woman's image smiled, and for the first time it seemed genuine, free from fear.
Follow me. The core systems are below the main deck.
We will need to go down. Jack followed her down a narrow hallway, the walls of the ship glowing softly as they moved. The air felt charged, like static electricity was building all around them. As they reached a door, the woman gestured for him to enter. Jack stepped into a dimly lit room, filled with strange equipment and glowing panels. "This is where it all begins," the woman said, her voice now filled with resolve. "Once you activate the core, the ship will respond. We will be ready to fight." Jack swallowed hard. He wasn't sure what to expect, but he could feel the weight of the moment pressing on him. He had no idea how this ship worked, but he could do this. He had to. For her. For the Galaxy. For whatever future was left. He stepped forward, approaching the glowing panel in front of him. He reached out and touched it. The moment his fingers made contact, the entire room hummed to life. The ship's systems awakening one by one. Jack's heart raced as the ship came alive around him. The panels flickered to life, the lights brightening. The ship was responding to him, to his touch. It was beginning to understand him. The woman's voice came again, softer this time, filled with gratitude.
You've done it! Jack stood there feeling the weight of what he had just done.
The ship was alive, and so was the hope for the future. But as the ship powered up, he knew this was just the beginning. The war was not over. It had only just begun. And now he was part of it, whether he was ready or not.